Hello and welcome to another video in my raspiBackup channel. In this video I want to give you an update on everything you will get when you start to use raspiBackup release 0.7. And I also want to present you the new raspiBackup logo and icon, which you see in the middle of the slide. On the top you see the SD card. Actually today most of the guys just use an SD card or something else. But when raspiBackup was created, the only device available to store the OS was an SD card, so I decided just to keep the SD card. And at the bottom you see the backup folder, which gets all the backups. And at the bottom you see a staple. And the purpose of the staple is just to make sure that all the backups which were created, the backup folder will not fill out, because the backup folder, well, is open at the bottom. So now let's talk about the news and new features of raspiBackup 0.7. Just an overview. First of all, well, now you can restore the partition-oriented backup on small and larger restored devices. You also can use a new option, -00, when you use the partition-oriented async backup. Then also the OS release now is included in the backup directory. A temporary backup directory is now used, and there are other minor enhancements. So what's enhanced in the restore? So far, additional whenever you tried to restore a partition-oriented backup, well, it was not possible to restore the backup to a smaller device, and if you use the larger device, then the additional space you gain will not be used, and you have to manually expand the last partition in order to get the additional space. Now the last partition is shrinked or expanded accordingly, so all the space will be used and you will be able to restore the partition backup to a smaller device. In addition, until now, whenever you restored the partitioned backup, all partitions were restored. Now with the new release you can define which partitions should be restored. The default is just to use the two first partitions, and if you want to restore all partitions, then just use a star for the -T option. And you also can use and define every partition. So for example, if you want to restore the third or fourth or fifth partition you have created on your system, then just pass this partition number in the -T option, and this partition only will be restored. There's a new async restore option available now. It's -00. Well, it's an extension of the option -O. -O only makes sure that partitioning of the target restore device is not done, and -00 will make sure that the partitioning is not done, and in addition the formatting is not done, because if you use -O, all the time all partitions which are restored are formatted and all data from the backup has to be restored. So if you use -00, in addition you have to keep in mind this only works if you use rsync. Then the rsync capabilities are used, which make sure that updated files on the device which the backup is restored um, are updated, and if there are any files which were deleted, they are restored. And if there are any new files on the restore device, they will be deleted. The use case is usually, at least on my side, sometimes it's happened that I do some modification on the system and I think, okay, it's just a small modification, and all of a sudden the system doesn't boot or any application doesn't work anymore, and it will take some time or even more time to find out why the system doesn't boot or the application doesn't run anymore. So then you can just use the -00 option, restore the latest backup you have, and because only updated and deleted files will be updated with rsync, then the restore of the backup will be much, much faster. And so I strongly recommend to use this option whenever you face this issue I just described. The OS release is now used in the directory name. Well, frankly, I don't know whether it makes sense for all the other people, but at least for me it makes sense, because I upgrade my systems all the time when there's a new OS release available. So you may remember that we had Jesse, Stretch, Buster, Bullseye, and Bookworm. And whenever you install a new OS and make sure that the previous OS migrated to the new OS and you create an additional backup, you usually see not that you use a new OS release, and you can make sure or you can write down, okay, this backup was Wheezy and the other one was Jesse, but now the OS release is included in the backup directory name, and then it's quite easy to see, okay, this was a backup of Wheezy and this was a backup of Jesse. And so whenever you have to restore a previous OS, you can just identify the OS release from the backup directory name. Keep in mind that the old backups without the OS release are not included in the backup recycle process anymore and have to be deleted manually. If you have old backup directories which don't have the OS release in the directory path, they can be restored with the new release, and you don't have to keep the old raspiBackup release in order to restore them. There's another update which I think is quite important, because in rare case when it may be possible that raspiBackup aborts for some reasons, and unfortunately until now the incomplete backup is stored in the backup directory, and that's not acceptable. So I decided to create the backup, whenever you create a backup, in a temporary backup, and as long as the backup didn't finish successfully, and will terminate, then this incomplete backup will not be visible in the final backup directory. So the logic now is that the temporary backup directory is moved into the final backup directory only if the raspiBackup succeeds. If it fails, it will still be there in the temporary directory, and this temporary directory will be cleaned up when the next backup succeeded, and then also these temporary directories are cleaned up. Then we are sure that all the backups you will find in the backup directory are complete directories, and there are no incomplete directories anymore. So we have some minor other enhancements. First of all, F2FS is now supported. Another guy asked for additional pushover options. Actually, he asked for an option that he can define the device the notification is sent to, which is now available. And later on, he asked also for additional pushover options to be available in raspiBackup, but it doesn't make sense to add all these pushover options as options in raspiBackup. So I decided to add a new option which can be used by everybody who uses pushover to add additional pushover options, which then will be passed to pushover by raspiBackup to make sure additional features are used by pushover. The backup type was changed. Initially, I decided to use DD, but actually this is the worst backup type to use. So I decided to change it now to rsync because from my point of view this is the best backup type to use whenever you want to create a backup. Last but not least, a guy detected that the tar backup terminated unsuccessfully all the time, and finally I found out I forgot to exclude the systemd journal in the tar backup, because this one is updated during the backup, and tar then just complains about modified files and terminates unsuccessfully. This exclusion is already available in the rsync backup, but for some reasons I missed to add this exclusion also in the tar backup. Okay, and so finally I want to present you again the new raspiBackup logo and icon. And okay, so I hope you will enjoy to use the new features of raspiBackup 0.7, and that's for today.